WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. I get a little bit of feedback. It throws me off every time, Robin. I always forget on the Veteran Show we have every microphone open, so let me close them all. That's what happens right there.
Okay.
When you have headsets that are loud and they're sitting next to microphones that are on, you always get that.
Yeah.
Our next guest would know a lot about that. He's actually a recording artist, and I'm sure he's done much work around microphones and had all the headaches of that microphones will give you. He's a songwriter, a singer, an author. He's a novelist. Michael Soward is an independent consultant for aspiring gospel artists, jazz artists, and just you read his story and you just want to read some more. So he's written a book. And so I will be able to read more when I get the book. The book is called Lifeology 101. If all else fails, smile. It's his memoir, and he's got a great smile, Robin. I went to his website, which is michaelsoward.com. We'll tell you how to spell it in just a bit. Or if you're anxious, go to WOCA.com. Robin already put Michael's website on the guest list for today. And that's all I know. I don't know where he is. Michael Soward. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
And where are you?
I'm located in Brooklyn, New York.
In Brooklyn.
Yes.
Nice.
All right. How did you end up there?
That's a long story. And let me try to ditto the story, okay? It was by accident that I ended up in New York. I was working on some music in L.A. via Dallas, Texas, and I got a call to come here to help start a record label. And voila, I was supposed to be here 3 months to 3 years total, and I've been here now about 15 years.
Oh, wow. So now every aspiring young recording artist, singer, songwriter heard that and said, oh, man, I want that to happen to me. But you paid your dues. I was looking through some of the things. I mean, where did you start out? Down here somewhere, right?
Oh, actually born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
In Milwaukee?
Yes.
That's where Robin's from.
Yes. Wow, Robin.
Go Packers.
Oh, yes, definitely a Packer fan here. America's team, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, but born in Milwaukee, raised in the South because my mom died 2 months shy of 2 years old. So my granny ends up hauling myself and my brother to Blaseville, Arkansas. Tremendous nightmare of an upbringing on that end.
Oh, wow. What age were you when you moved to Arkansas? And we're not trying to badmouth Arkansas, by the way, but you had your set of troubles that you kind of connected with the fact that you're a black man. Is that? I don't want to say anything wrong, but that's a part of your story, though, right?
No, be real. Yes, it is. But you know what? The thing that really was more devastating to me than the people talked about the racism that was going on around that area, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that really got me was my granny's beatings and spankings. That was the killer.
Your granny?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
I call her it was a mini Gestapo, if you will.
Oh, man.
In that house, and that, for lack of a better term.
Oh, wow.
It was brutal.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't really. Was it social? I mean, I got the feeling when I read the little bit that I read about you that there was some social issues going on. It sounds like family issues, domestic issues.
Yeah, you can call it that. I mean, my understanding was my father couldn't raise myself and my brother at the time. My sister stayed in Milwaukee, by the way, and the deal was my grandma was stuck with myself and my brother to raise. And it was like one of the biggest whys in my life. It was a brutal upbringing, to say the least. The spanking, the beating, I call it the mini lynching. And it's very humorous. Even to this day, I hear people talk about racism and all that stuff, and I was like, heck, if I could just get out of Granny's house, I can deal with anything.
Oh, no. Okay. So I guess I was wrong. It wasn't really racial at all. Or help me understand this a little bit.
I think, as being a man of color, we always have those racism things. But when I sit down and just be honest about it. If somebody came out and asked me, Michael Soward, what was your greatest struggle coming up? More or less your upbringing. I'd have to say my granny's whipping philosophy, spanking philosophy.
I'm only chuckling, by the way, at the use of the word granny. I just
Yeah.
I just think that's funny. I don't know why.
Yeah, that should get your attention.
So now you kind of gave us 3 decades. You said the 50s, 60s, and 70s. When were you there?
I was raised there, so I left upper teenish, if you will, because I went in the Navy 1972.
Okay.
75. By the way, I was based in Milton, Florida.
Oh,
you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, my son.
BC-3.
Where's
my
that?
son lived there for about a
Milton,
year
Florida.
up in Panhandle.
Oh, in the Panhandle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were training Navy pilots out there. So I spent most of my Navy days there, 72, 75. Before there, my granny, just at home dodging hooks and whoopings on my granny. And I share a bit of that, but that's really the biggest pain of my life.
Okay. And you have written your memoir. The book that I talked about, Lifeology 101, is your memoir, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing that I talk about is the subtitle, If All Else Fails, Smile, because it was, that was one of the key things that was so bad is I discovered that if I smile, and by the way, that's what really touched me this morning from watching you and Robin smiling and feeling the laughter come over the airways.
Mm-hmm.
The smiling really became great medicine for me.
Yeah, I think so. I think some people will say that reverse psychology is at work. If you're not feeling good and you force yourself to smile, there's this kind of a reverse effect.
So.
Yeah. So did you? So how did you deal with the hardships that you had early in life? And you mentioned your granny a few times. Does she know you wrote a book, or is she still around?
Well, she's been gone on many years ago to meet the Lord, and I accidentally. By the way, the book was more or less an accident. I had endeavored to write like a mini memoir, if you will, because writing is a healing component as well, as I'm sure you might know. And I just felt that I needed to get the stuff down on paper. Lo and behold, as I began to write, the thing that really popped out at me was all of the research out there about what really happens when children are spanked and as they attempt to develop later on in life. And I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I'm like, wait a minute. Some of these behavioral things that are going on with you, they came from the beatings, the spankings, the being tied to the bed type situation.
So maybe we need to understand more about the spankings. It sounds like when you talk about spankings, maybe we're picturing, I don't know if there is such thing as a normal spanking, but it sounds like it wasn't normal in any way.
No.
So you just said you were tied to the bed? Your grandmother tied you to the bed?
Let me give you a brief example. I actually remember, and this is so humorous, my brother, because my granny, she became like an expert at this stuff. She ended up with a nickname. They call her the hooker. But I remember one scenario where my brother had got a whooping, and he discovered a way to block the strap. And he was explaining it to me like, hey, Michael, look, I have a technique. You don't have to get hit. And I was like, oh, really cool. So he held up his arm, and I looked at his arm, and it looked like about 20 trains had ran over it, if you will. It's all blue and bleeding, and I was like, I don't know if I want to block the strap that way. And it was that bad. It was like if she didn't see welts, there was no punishment happening. And that was something that I never, ever got to share with people. It was later on in life, by the way, there's tons of research out there, as you probably know now, regarding what happens later in life when your children get spanked.
So what was her story? I mean, why was she so violent? How many children were in the house? You and your brother and any others?
It was me and my brother, and I felt that, many years ago, that was a technique that was sort of, I think it was passed down through the South, if you will. A lot of people of color were doing it, and even today in the southeast region of America, it's very difficult to find people of color that don't spank or whoop their children.
Okay, so but just so we understand this, and forgive me if this is inappropriate, but your grandmother was
No problem.
also a black woman, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so I wasn't sure if there was something there. Okay, so she, I clearly was crossing the line if she was leaving you and your brother with welts and blood coming out of you and tying you to the bed. That's horrible. Now the paperwork that we got, and when I first saw the paperwork, I said, wait a minute, this is a guy, a singer, songwriter, musician, record company founder, and now we're talking about spanking and sexual abuse. Are we sure this is the same interview?
A little confusing there, huh?
Okay, yeah. So, but now I'm getting it. Now I understand a little bit. So this is very deeply important to you.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I just feel that it was one of those angles that really needed to be shared. And as you get a chance to read the mini novel, and this is a quick read, and I sort of go through a bit of the scenarios there.
Okay, so did you said you went into the Navy?
Yes, 72, 75, proud Navy guy.
So at that point, you're out of the house. You're done. I mean, did
oh, yeah.
Did your grandmother ever look back on the way she helped? Did she raise you by herself? But I mean, did she ever?
Yes, it was difficult. In her defense, my understanding was that we very poor, by the way. We had something about $60, $70 a month coming in. The shack was so bad I could lay down at night and literally look through the floor and see the ground. So it was tough, on her.
Yeah.
But with her being so much into the church and taking you and your brother to church and believing in God, it just seems like it's contrary to what Jesus' teachings were to love one another.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that she got it confused a little bit, Robin. I think she thought that Jesus was speaking about the bigger the strap, the bigger the love.
Oh, my gosh.
Or the stick. What it did to me is just really caused me to become a serious advocate for children that get spanked. It is incredibly brutal what happens to you as you begin to develop in life. And what was so devastating to me is that I didn't even know that this stuff had affected me.
So how did it affect you? Let's talk about that a little bit. In adult years, you mean, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's just the demeaning component of it, the less than, the footsteps, the invisible footsteps that you hear, just the scarring. And this, the really big thing in my life, and it's always been there, is why? Why did this woman beat me like this?
Yeah, what's the answer?
Why me? Why not another kid?
See, I mean,
type of thing.
Because no matter what you are as a child, I mean, we all probably do things that need to be corrected, reprimanded, but whipping, yeah, I'm with you. I can understand why you would. Nothing we do as children is that bad that we need to be whipped for it.
Yes.
Okay, so what did your brother end up doing with his life? What's he doing?
Well, he's based now in Kansas City, Missouri. He has some mental issues, by the way. I actually, of the two of us, I'm the only one that sort of, I would say, figured out how to crawl out of the mental box, if you will, and say, look in the mirror and go, hey, I'm okay, you're okay, let's move forward. This is something that happened, it's the past. How can we build from this type of approach to life?
So let's talk a little bit about the music, because right now I don't see a connection, but maybe if we talk about the music, maybe somewhere in our conversation there'll be a bridge. You are a talented songwriter, singer. You were actually recruited to Brooklyn to help start a record company. So obviously you've got some understanding of how music is and how it should be created. How did that happen for you? Were you playing guitar or piano, or what were you doing?
Yes, actually, in her defense, my granny realized that I had some musical abilities, and I started taking a few lessons early in life. And now, by the way, this was a nice way to escape out of the house, right? So I ended up getting a private instructor during my youth. The bad thing about that is the instructor would beat me on the hands with a croquette piece.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I want to go this route. You know what I mean? The instruction thing. So I'm like, you know what? I got to figure out a way to teach myself how to play. I'm getting beat up at home. I'm getting beat up by the instructor. So I ended up sort of teaching myself how to play organ and piano by ear, and I started playing in churches all over the country for many years later.
Oh, wow.
But you were working in the cotton fields all day too, so I just that is just horrendous work. You were there for hours and hours, and then you go home. You don't even have a chance to be bad, and you get beaten.
Oh no bad. I mean, I went to my first movie when I was in my 20s. I was scared to death. Because my teachings was, this is a house of hell. And when I walked around, I remember my first visit. I was like,
Oh my gosh, you're looking over your shoulder.
Out of this place,
In the movie theater?
Wow.
A movie theater.
Why?
A movie theater.
What was that? Were you?
It was just the teachings. It was a dogma at that time. It was a dogma teaching, just hellfire, brimstone type of approach to teaching, and it was just brutal. For lack of a better statement.
What was the movie? What was?
I now
it was
I
movie
don't
theater
even
in
remember.
general. They thought it was the devil's work.
You were taught that movies were the devil's work.
Exactly. How about the prom? I remember, and I share this in my book. A guy came to pick me up for the prom. I was so afraid. I couldn't tell my granny that he was coming, right?
Right.
But the guy comes to the door in a tuxedo. He's dressed, and he goes, he knocks on the door, and she goes, "Can I help you?" And I go, "I come to pick up Michael." And she goes, "Michael, for what?" And so, "We're going to the prom." She said, "Prom?" And so, "What is that, a dance?" She said, "We don't dance. That's against the biblical teachings and stuff." Of course, the next day I was the laughing stock of the school.
Oh my gosh,
wow.
That is just so horrible.
Interesting, huh?
Okay. So you didn't go to the dance?
No, I have no idea what a prom is all about, with the exception of just seeing it. I hear people talk about it and, that type of thing. And I guess why do I pull this component out of the book? I think you see why. It's just that there's a lot of research and data out there now, thank God for it, about spanking children, but there's very little that talks about what happens developmentally to someone that actually went through that type of a scenario.
Right.
And I think that people that spank their children even now would just take a second look at the strap. Mr. and Mrs. Spanker, whoever they might be, you know what I mean?
So you've written a book that a lot of people will be able to relate to, and you tell your story in doing so. If you go to your website, michaelsoward.com, and Michael is spelled as the normal way. Soward is S as in Sam, O-W-A-R-D, michaelsoward.com. You'll see that Michael has a very calming face. I mean, if you could visit yourself, if you could go back in time and somehow visit yourself, that hypothetical circumstance that we often use to illustrate things, I think you would be comforted by your own face.
Well, there has to be some calm in that storm right somewhere.
Yeah.
Did you were you ever able to reconnect with your older sister Wendy and with your dad?
Oh yeah, I have a real good connection with my sister. We're very, very close. My father, we're not that close. We're on talking terms. But the biggest part of my life has been healing myself, making sure that I can share with someone else that needs to hear that there's a better way to discipline your kid. Period.
Mm-hmm.
What is the sexual component of the spankings in your mind? Why does the paperwork that I'm looking at to prepare for this interview reference the spanking as sexual abuse?
Yeah, well, let me just throw this at you, and you might be familiar with this. I believe her name was Robin Pagoria. It's a couple of years ago. She's probably 47 now. You remember the female sheriff deputy that
not yet.
that they caught with just beating these two. One girl was 10, 18, and had actually made a custom desk, a bench, if you will, and was
Oh.
beating them. And when they found her, they asked her, "Why were you doing this?" And she said she's always gotten gratification from just spanking and beating, and the reason I bring that up is because that is a phenomenon that's going on now. It's part of a multi-billion-dollar industry, the porn industry, even as I speak.
Really?
It's not addressed
So
that
people
much.
get
I mean,
people get pleasure out of spanking other people.
Oh yes. Oh, there's a market. There's a separate market for that.
Oh.
There are people that love to give spankings, and there are people that love to receive spankings. And by the way,
And you're not in either
probably
camp.
I'm
no.
glad. Don't be in either camp.
Been there, done that. I don't want to wear the suit anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Do you have children?
And I try to tell. Oh yes, my oldest daughter is grown. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona.
And did you ever
She's doing
spank?
quite well.
Did you ever
You
spank?
never
question,
spanked
yes.
her then. You made
Yes, I
sure.
did one time, and it almost killed me. She
Oh.
looked at me. I think she was about 4 or 5 years old, many years ago. She cried. I cried. I was like, God, no again. And I spanked her I remember it was like 2 or 3 times. I patted her, literally patted her.
So, Michael,
and it was brutal. So I never touched her again.
Michael, if we could get the whole world to be in your audience, and you're up on the stage, and you've got the microphone, and you only have a minute, and your job is to say why we should not spank, what would you say?
Because it is damaging mentally beyond anything you can imagine.
Does it cause the child to grow up to be a violent person?
It could. By the way, there's very few people, if any, in prison right now that haven't been spanked at home. Can you imagine that? I think what it does, it teaches the body. The sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in the body, as you well know. It's the largest, the longest. It's located near the buttocks. Isn't that amazing? Wonder when you're whacking somebody there, what type of messages are going out to the very complex body that we have. And everybody's different, right?
So have you? Does this surface in the songwriting that you've done? I mean, are there songs about this?
Always. Everything. I think the music has always been healing, like your laughter. Music has always been a medicine for me, and a lot of the digital stuff that I just done in it, I get blessed to send it out all over the world, to DJs and everybody. Music just transcends all types of pains, and then it allows you to tell lots of stories as well.
Your brother.
And you guys are musicians, by the way. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as artists in general, whether it's music or paintings or dance or anything that expresses things, usually the person who creates it, the one doing the expressing, is drawing from his or her life experiences. And that's why I was asking if the songs that you've created somehow can be traced in some way, maybe not every song, but in some of them, to the one thing that seems to be the biggest thing in your childhood, which is the spanking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all of them. If you would ask me in a nutshell, the music is the one gigantic medicine that every time I get involved in it, even if just speaking to lovely folk like you and Robin, it's so healing, so soothing, so wonderful. I mean, when I found out you guys were musicians too, I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be a great, great interview.
Yeah, but we haven't spoken about music very much.
Oh, we don't have to, because music is an invisible thing, you see. It is spiritual.
It is very spiritual, yes.
What you are also doing is telling parents or any adult that is in charge of the children that they have to keep the realms of communication open. You have to be able to speak to each other, to air out whatever it is that's going wrong, and not resort to physical abuse and violence.
Absolutely. There's an advocate group that I work with. It's called the Natural Child Project. The director is Jan Hunt, and she's based in Canada. She has done tremendous work in this area.
Okay.
And the reason I bring that up is she has and it's all free. 10 Reasons Not to Hit Your Kids. I think that is an excellent article that everyone could take a look at when they have a moment.
Well, I'm looking forward to looking at your book as well. The book is called Lifeology 101. If All Else Fails, Smile. It is Michael Soward's memoir, and we've probably heard just a tiny amount of what's in the book in this little interview. Michael, let's see. I gave your website, michaelsoward.com. He spells his last name S, as in Sam, O-W-A-R-D, kind of like Howard with an S instead of an H. Michael, how else would we get the book? We get it on your website, right? How else? Is it on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or wherever ebooks are sold is probably the most fast way and most efficient way to get it, Larry, Robin.
And
thank you so very much.
And I really like the fact that even though your grandmother was so horrendous to you, you still have found a way to forgive those actions and speak highly of her.
Absolutely. Absolutely, but I still got that big why.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is no reason to have.
And I'll be Googling spanking for pleasure just to see what I find. I'm looking that one up.
Robin, please keep an eye on this.
Oh yeah.
Michael, you're definitely welcome back anytime. Maybe next time we can play some of your songs. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, listen. Larry, Robin, thank you very much. God bless. I love you guys' smile and laughter. I've been checking out the show since 8 o'clock this morning. Can you believe it?
That's great, Michael. Thank you again for being on the air with us, and you're welcome back anytime.
Absolutely.
All right.
Take care.
We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Dad jeans for men and mom jeans for women are popping up in fashion magazines, and even stylish celebrities like Kanye West and actress Elle Fanning are sporting them. Teens today are asking for rides